Hello and welcome to an episode of DCU Daily. Today we are talking about, well, there were some rumors out there. It's Plastic Man. We're talking about Plastic Man, and the question is Darren Aronofsky, Darren Aronofsky. Wow, I already tripped over his name. Much like it trips over a lot of his movies. In my opinion, like you can love his stuff, but basically we're gonna ask the question: is Darren Aronofsky the answer to a Plastic Man movie? Because throughout history, there have been more than a few efforts to get Plastic Man onto our screens, and pretty much every single one has gone into the trash can or not worked out. So today I've got John with me as always to talk about how potentially Aronofsky could be making a Plastic Man movie for the DCU, or maybe, this rumor is just that it's a rumor. What do you think?
I pray to God it's just a rumor because out of all the people to be in the rumor mill for a Plastic Man movie, this has got to be the worst because Darren Aronofsky is a very, artsy kind of director. Like, he's done stuff like The Wrestler, like really good stuff like The Wrestler, Black Swan, and more like surreal, cerebral stuff. And then he's also done stuff like Mother and that kind of thing. And it that like this like out of all the people, like I can't picture it. Like I cannot picture this guy doing a Plastic Man movie. And I feel like this is like definitely BS because one, uh Darren Aronofsky, as many know, he tried to do a Batman Year One movie back in the time when Batman and Robin kind of stopped the franchise before Batman Begins came in. And so he did it and he like wrote a script. There was a lot of concept art. Some of it was like kind of cool, but the script itself was like the concept art was cool, but like the script itself was garbage. And then eventually he was like, yeah, I don't want to do this anymore. So I feel like if he doesn't want to do something that's a little bit more up his alley, like Batman, I have a hard time believing that he would want to do something like Plastic Man, unless he really wants like to go out of his wheelhouse and do a weird, kooky, comedy-driven superhero, then maybe, but I take that with a grain of salt because and this all came from like somebody asking once again James Gunn on Threads being like, "Hey, we heard a rumor that a bunch of these things were happening. The Darren Aronofsky directing a Plastic Man movie was one of them, and then the other was a character named Ruthie, um, who was in the original Supergirl Woman of Tomorrow comic, and they're having an open casting call for someone a little bit younger than Millie Alcock to be her friend in that to play Ruthie in that movie. And then that a Teen Titans film is in early development for the DCU. And of course, James Gunn, being the mastermind he is, he just says, "Well, one of these things is definitely not true, but I'm not going to say which one." So if I were to guess, it would be the Darren Aronofsky as for Plastic Man, because that just sounds ridiculous. And with things being set up, uh it seemed like the character of Ruthie was in Supergirl Woman of Tomorrow, so it looks like that is going to be a like book to movie adaptation rather than just like loosely doing it. So that makes sense. And the character was a little bit younger than Supergirl. So that also makes sense that they would just do an open casting call for that character. And then with Brave and the Bold having, Damian Wayne as well as the Bat family, I mean, a Teen Titans film would make sense because the most recent iteration, we did have Damian Wayne's Robin being the leader of that group. So that would kind of make sense. I don't know if that's what they're going for, but I mean, he just said at least one is definitely not true. So he could be like, well, all three are not true. I'm just saying one definitely isn't. So I this is all grain of
It's
salt stuff
Yeah.
and
I mean,
ridiculous.
look, the only thing I can say about Darren Aronofsky directing a Plastic Man movie is maybe in this movie it will be a metaphorical Plastic Man. Maybe it will be it'll be a metaphor for something you know about our
Yeah,
society. Maybe something to do with the flexibility of our thoughts and ideas and
that
how
sounds
polarized
good.
the world is politically and how
Yeah,
plastic men can force us to be more flexible with our thinking and be more open-minded. Like
yeah,
maybe that's where this is gonna go. If he were indeed to take this on, this is a character that's has been almost adapted multiple times. When I was researching the story, I found a bunch of articles about different iterations of this movie being in development over the last 5 years alone. Not to mention the canceled movie from years ago. So yeah, I mean, guys, let us know in the comments what you think about the idea of Darren Aronofsky. Is he the answer to finally getting a Plastic Man movie? I mean, let us know in the comments, and of course, come back here, like and subscribe if you like what we talk about, and we'll tackle any more rumors and such if they're indeed are to come true, and maybe Darren Aronofsky finally enters the superhero genre and works his magic on the Plastic Man. Like we'll see. Let us know in the comments, and of course, leave a comment down below or in the chat, and then and of course subscribe. We're here each and every day talking about this stuff. But right now we're gonna switch gears. I know that if you clicked on the thumbnail, you probably were reading about the Superman suit, and specifically the suit for Superman Legacy. So James Gunn has been sharing so many images, concept art, or really, images from comic book panels that he considers his inspiration, as well as possibly, previews of the suit that we're gonna see in Superman Legacy. But we don't really know which direction exactly he's gonna go. There have been rumors and whispers and inside reporters who have basically been saying things like this Superman suit is gonna be like nothing you've ever seen before, which promises a lot because, A, that could be a good thing, B, it could be a bad thing. See, yeah, I guess, it could be somewhere in the middle. Like, it's not really anything particularly special because you might think that, oh, I've seen that a version of that suit but better, or I've seen basically the pieces in other suits. Like maybe the S symbol is similar to the Christopher Reeve symbol. Maybe the texture is similar to Henry Cavill's suit. Maybe he has a belt. Maybe he doesn't. Maybe he's wearing underoos. Maybe he's not. Maybe he has a logo on the cape. Maybe he doesn't. We're gonna talk about that and so much more because I want to really dive into this. Because anytime I bring this up, John, as a topic,
yeah.
it makes, at least I know that it makes my head spin a little bit because there's so many options. So I can only imagine like what James Gunn was thinking. I mean, I'm sure as a filmmaker with a story idea and a script, he has sort of walled himself into a certain direction, so he's not really looking at this as an open question necessarily, but it still leads to speculation because we really haven't seen any official concept art for this movie. We just keep getting like panels from comic books that he's taking inspiration from. So
Right.
what do you think? What kind of super suit will James Gunn bring us? Side note: every time it says super suit, it reminds me of Frozone from The
I
Incredibles.
would literally just thought the same
Um,
thing. I
so
always, where's my super suit? Yeah,
where
exactly.
is my super suit?
Where is the super suit, James? We want to see the goddamn super suit. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah.
But
That would
I,
be Sam Jackson, right? Like that could easily be how they would
yeah.
make the do the reveal. That'd be hilarious.
Um,
Anyway.
but yeah, so ever since we got that tweet, unfortunately, I forget who made it, but there was somebody who made a tweet like, "Oh, I know of an insider who confirmed that the super suit is going to be nothing like anything we've ever seen before." So with that, I was like, okay, what are they going to do with this? Because there's a lot of different directions you can go with this, a lot of different directions, and I think you could go with obviously the more modern iteration um Henry Cavill and Tyler Hoechlin's suit where it's just the blue, maybe a belt and but no trunks, just a medium-sized symbol, cape, boots, that kind of thing. But the thing is we've seen that before. We so so we've gotten that before, and he's teasing that we're getting something we haven't seen before. So thinking like maybe they'll go back to a more original iteration, like the Christopher Reeve suit, because James Gunn did promise that like he's taking a lot of inspiration from Christopher Reeve, which has its pros and cons, obviously. But so we get something along those lines, but like not exactly like that, where it's not like, that type of suit where we would be getting, something along that like that, like template, but like something that goes into a direction we've never seen before with that specific suit, with the trunks, the classic look, and you know like maybe it'll be like a very homemade feel after the more like what's on screen right now is the very alien like suit that we got from Henry Cavill, where it was like, bringing in the idea of like the quote unquote underwear. Um, and it was actually, under, skin tight under like garments that was worn by Kryptonians. And so, but we can like be going in like that complete other direction where it's a lot more homemade. Since it is year two, we've kind of gotten quite a bit of Superman, but not enough. Like kind of, where he's like made a lot of where he's pretty much ironed himself out, made a lot of the mistakes, but hasn't made, still has a few mistakes left to make, but maybe not a ton. And so maybe it's more homemade, and it follows more, maybe the crest isn't as big, maybe it's not going to be as like, like that light blue, maybe it's going to be more like a darker blue, maybe like the Fleischer suit. Because the only time we've gotten that is Tyler Hoechlin wore it briefly in that famous opening season Superman and Lois. And so we could be getting something like the Fleischer suit where it's like that very homemade feel. It has the black and yellow instead of the yellow and red, and something like that. It could be something like that. Um, what a lot of people are guessing, since this is all stuff we've kind of gotten before in one way or another. A lot of people are speculating that it's going to actually follow the New 52 Grant Morrison version, where it's going to be a t-shirt, jeans, boots, and a cape, which could be interesting as like a super origin suit, where it's like that's really the first suit he's ever done, and we're gonna see
We're
something
we're
like that, but
we're
like grow
talking like
into the suit.
Spider-Man level, like first iteration at this
Yeah,
point.
but the thing
Okay.
is, I wouldn't mind seeing that. However, I
Yeah.
think that might be a little bit leaning into a little bit too grounded, when James Gunn has said that this is going to be more fantastical, more big. So I just like there's so many different types of suits that we could get. I mean, fuck it, we could get the electric blue suit, like at this point. Like God knows, we get the Justice Lord suit. We can get more of like the OG, Ultraman suit. Like who knows? Like if it's truly something we've never seen before, then we can only rack our brains for so long of like, oh, okay, like it's really something that we really didn't see before, or they're just being hyperbolic. Who knows? But I'm just kind of just racking my brain, and I'm just like, nothing we've ever seen before. That's interesting, and it has me curious, I guess, mysterious, I guess. So
Yeah,
I think
that's a good way to put it, because like, especially when you say curious, because I think that's definitely the reason why that's the sentiment that everybody has about this, is they're curious just which direction they're gonna go in because there's so many options. I particularly would not be a fan of the whole T-shirt kind of a thing. I mean, I get it, but like that has to be something that maybe that's only used for part of the movie. I can't imagine the final fight that
yeah.
he's wearing a T-shirt, kind of like a homemade suit, which gets ripped off, and then we get buff David Cornsweat. Like if that happens, then we're all of a sudden into like Bollywood movie territory. Like it's like that's just yeah.
Honestly, I wouldn't mind seeing a Bollywood-esque Superman movie, especially with how good, like,
um.
mainstream attention that, like, RRR got.
Mhm.
Hell, give it to us, like, the most insane, ridiculous movie, and then it ends in a dance sequence. Sure, I'll take it.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, hey, look, of all the suits that we've got on screen right now, I actually quite like the mullet Superman
Oh yeah.
from the
If there's
90s.
one good thing that Argyle gave us is we finally got to see Henry Cavill in a mullet, because God knows Zack Snyder didn't give it to us. We
And
finally got to
he had
see
a
Henry
curly
Cavill in a
mullet
mullet.
too. It
Yeah,
wasn't even like a straight like he yes. I love that. That was yes. That was
but if
hilarious. I loved it.
I what I've been thinking, because I did forget about this one. What if it's like they're really going for like the really 1938 original suit where it looked like an armored crest, and it had
Yeah.
like the S. That could be something like go really golden age with that. I think that could be really good. Or it's more like the triangle rather than like the diamond. That
Yeah, I
could
see what
also
you
be
mean.
really interesting,
Yeah.
because I like the night. Because I mean, the Fleischer suit gets so much love, and I would love to see the Fleischer suit like in a proper big budget, big screen adaptation. Don't get me wrong, the Fleischer suit in Superman and Lois was great. And don't get me wrong, I would love to see that copy and pasted into the movie too, because that was also excellent. But I would love to see their own take on like the Fleischer suit with like the black backdrop and the yellow border and like the
Mhm.
darker sort of look to it. Both versions, the first two that you could see on the screen, the first two
Yeah.
1940 suits, though either of those would be really awesome to
I
see.
mean,
And it's
one of those looks like
something
a
we really
winter
haven't
suit.
seen before. Yeah, it's something we really haven't seen before, and I just think that would be really awesome.
I mean, to me personally, like I really loved Henry Cavill's suit because I thought they
Yeah,
looked at it from a perspective of like, okay, how do we make this thing practical? What's the reason for this to exist to the point where they're, like, this is kind of like what they wear as like their basic under their, all their other clothing, the garment on Krypton, and it's a definite. It defines what guild you're a part of, and they built a whole mythology out around this answering the question of why this suit and kind of by extension what Krypton in that world looked like. I think that way of thinking, and you could say maybe one you can do that for maybe that iteration and not others. But honestly, if you look at superhero movies today, they always have kind of that same approach because it makes sense. As logically, today movies are not quite produced. Superhero movies aren't kind of are made the same way that they used to be made in the 90s, where they were like we're not gonna show Krypton. Like, who cares what like nobody was asking those questions, or if they were, they weren't asking it on social media or Twitter. Like that
right.
stuff didn't exist. So nobody needed to. And then that cross platform marketing that happens now that is essentially a crucial part of all of these movies where you're trying to sell comic books and merchandise and not just movie tickets. You need to have answers because to most likely this movie is gonna have like Superman Legacy, the novel, like where it's a novelized version of the movie, and that might have more details that we didn't even like realize were in the movie, or it will go into more detail. There might be a prequel comic. There may be some other comic books where that they kind of develop stories as spin-offs. I mean, uh, you need to kind of come up with a mythology around this Superman and the version of Krypton and Kryptonians that the Superman comes from. So I think much like what they did in this Man of Steel, it should sort of inform what that society looked like. And to that end, I think that's I'm trying to like reverse engineer like what James Gunn's thinking is, but like for example, this is probably gonna whenever you talk about Superman suit, I think this becomes the biggest point of debate is the underoos. Like, do you want the underwear or do you want like a belt? And when you look at these suits on the screen, outside of, I mean, I could probably count maybe two versions, like the 1993 the black suit, and then the 2011 one, both of which were adapted. Well, actually, in the 1997, like the silver one.
Electric blue suit, yeah.
Electric Blue, yeah. Outside of those 3, I mean, 2 of which were, I guess, Man of Steel, like, I think drew from in terms of their design, or maybe the 2011 one drew. I don't know, like, I don't know what the egg, chicken, and the egg, but 2011 one. But um, every other suit has the underwear. Like in some, I mean, the colors, how bright it is, how big it is, the proportion of the belt that goes around it. the
Yeah.
design. It's like, for example, the 2006 one. Like he's wearing briefs. He's not wearing underwear. Like they kind of go a little bit
Yeah, I
further
think
down
that's
the
from
legs.
Superman Returns, where they had
So
braces. Although I have a strong feeling they won't go for like the Kirk Allen dad bod suit, where like
yeah,
the underoos were like up to his stomach.
right. Yes.
So it's. I don't think they'll go that far. I don't think they'll do briefs. Nor
It's
will they
also
go
like
with
you.
the
It's hard to
Nicolas
pull off the
Cage super
briefs.
thong. As much as I
Yeah.
love the Nicolas Cage Superman live suit, that was a great suit. I don't think they'll go with the super thong either.
Because you're gonna eventually
Because
see the man's butt, and you don't want to. Yeah.
we don't want
Yeah.
Joel Schumacher's suits again. Like as much as I like,
Those close-up
I
shots, like, have you seen the butt shot where like the butt
yeah,
turns and like
like
it's
I
it's
like
taut,
Superman
like
Forever more,
yeah,
or sorry, Batman Forever more than most
yeah.
people. But even that was bat nipples and
Or Batman and
bat butt.
Robin when it's like in the end, all three of them, the montage combines all three of their suits, and then you get like the chest shot, the butt shot, the boots, I mean, yeah. Anyway, I'm sorry. Like it's so much fun to watch how ridiculous that is.
Yeah,
Uh, I get
but yeah.
sidetracked with the '90s Batman stuff. It's
Yeah, I
yeah.
think if it's nothing like we've ever seen before, I think they'll go for maybe like more of that Fleischer Golden Age kind of look. Um
What?
because if they're where it's not like something so radical like like the death of Superman, return of Superman suit, where it's like the black suit with the mullet. I don't think they'll go that far. Or the electric blue suit, or the
Dude, I
oh,
would
what was
so
it?
love a mullet.
Superman red and Superman blue suits. I don't
Yeah.
think they'll go that far. Or no, I don't think they'll go with the Grant Morrison look either, because that's, I think, just a bit too simple. I think what they'll do to really offset it from the Man of Steel version, just to create its own version, I think they'll go for more of that homemade. Oh, thanks, my mom made it for me type suit that like Dean Cain
Yeah.
and the original
That
title
was
had
very
them do.
endearing, that scene in particular, but didn't it I
Yeah,
mean,
I
if I
think they'll go
remember
for that.
correctly in that show, they kinda that was almost like that wasn't meant to be a "this is happening in the here and the now" in the show, right? Or did they kinda do no need to do like a time jump after that
Yeah, it was
scene?
montage. It was like that's when he was like first
Yeah.
starting out kind of thing. And that was like his first suit. And honestly, I that if we're talking about what I'd like it to be, like that we've been speculating what it could be. What I'd like it to be is I would personally like a royal blue like look. I personally like the trunks. It hides the bulge a little bit better than no
Mhm.
underoos. I don't like.
Although
I don't
that's
want
with
to.
the colors, right? Like, if you make it
No
a darker
offense,
color.
I don't wanna see the super bulge, but, that's just me.
But it's also I mean, they hit it well. It's also, like, how you shoot the character too,
Yeah,
'cause
too,
it's
but
rare that
yes.
you will see Superman standing straight with the bulging and a full like, it's not you're
Yeah,
not gonna see him in a lot of long shots like that. It's usually he's in some kind of fighting stance, he's moving
right.
around. So,
Yeah.
I think that yeah, but
What
or even,
yeah,
like, for example, with the Man of Steel stuff, whenever you saw them in posters, he was never quite, like, just standing straight looking at it was always at an angle. So they found ways to hide it, is what I'm
right.
saying.
Um, but yeah,
Yeah.
I would like to see kinda like if I were to say anything is the 2007 Legion of, Superheroes suit,
Mhm.
the 3rd one from the bottom all the way to the
That's a
right, the
pretty
3rd
I
one.
like that because I think it's a
Like
good combination of
yeah,
classic
I think
elements
I like
and the
the
new
I
yeah.
love royal blue. I want it
Yes.
to be royal blue so the red and yellow pop more. Like something I want like scarlet red and like bright mustard yellow, like the brightest possible, like almost as yellow as your shirt right now. And like just
It's almost
really
like
go for
green, but, like, I see
oh,
what you
okay.
mean.
It is
Yes.
more of a
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
lime. I apologize, but
Yeah.
the scarlet red, light and bright yellow, like neon yellow, and then like have like but sort of like a darker royal blue because because I as much as great as the Super Return suit almost is, I hate the maroon and the burgundy. That's just ugly. Like I
Dude,
don't
that
want to see
logo
that.
was too small. The only
And
thing
the
about
logo
that
was too
suit
small.
that I hate.
I would love to see, they would never do this, but what I would love to see is full on Alex Ross. Like it takes up the entire chest.
I'm
I
all for
would
that.
like I would
Love it. Yep.
love to see that because when you see Superman, you see like I'm kind of looking at 2003 bottom all the way to the left. It's nice to have this like diagram here
Yeah,
of
yeah,
like
it's
the
a
history, but like something that big I would love, like Alex Ross and like that's sort of like the go-to. Like Alex Ross is usually the go-to in terms of that. But yeah, like big and then like a dark royal blue with scarlet red and bright yellow for the belt as well. I'd love to have the
Yeah.
belt and then the boots. Like
Okay.
I don't like the rebirth suit where it was like he didn't have boots, but he had like a little red like where the boots would begin and the pants would
It
end.
just
I
felt
didn't like
like they
that.
weren't like an actual like they weren't actual boots, they were just part of. Because to me,
Yeah.
that's like what,
Kind
do
of
you
like what
just
the
like, is it like a
1938 suit
bodysuit
is.
that you
Yeah.
just kinda like step into? Like, I don't that
Yeah,
yeah.
kinda like what the 1938 suit is, like, where there's no
Mhm.
boots. I don't like that look. I you need some, like you need to
Yeah.
break it up a little bit with, like, that red and
Yeah.
blue.
I think it's like until like, the graphic design element of it got upgraded, they were like, "We gotta give him like boots." Well, I think they were looking at it like the underwear was the only red thing, and then the cape sort of they wanted to kinda balance it out. Because
Yeah,
ultimately, when you look at it from a design perspective, Superman's suit is a great demonstration of just good design aesthetics. Because when you look at it, there's 3 colors. You've got the blue, which is like the dominant color that it's like maybe that's the first thing you put on is like the blue bodysuit, which goes all the way up down the arms and all the way down the legs. And then you put all the other stuff on. So now you got all these accent colors, maybe like that includes maybe the crest. So that's where you have like now you got to find the balance between how much red and how much yellow you want. And
right,
really between all these suits, that's the pattern outside of the couple of the ones that don't have any red, yellow, or even blue. All the other ones have some combination of trying to balance that out and then proportions, which I think you also have to consider the design of the suit has to kind of suit your actor that you've got in the suit.
right.
Like,
Yeah,
you may have one design in mind, but when you start doing costume fittings, you're like, "You know what? It kinda looks ugly." And
of course, yeah,
there's only so much you can do about somebody's body. You can have padding, like, obviously, or you can like even Henry Cavill, how bulked up he was, they had like this not really padding, but they had stuff that kind of outlined some of the muscle groups, which I'm not saying Henry Cavill like didn't buff up because absolutely he did. There were scenes like where he's literally shirtless in the movie. Um, but just to kind of give it that look that you're seeing, like obviously when they draw it in the comics, it's always outside of the ones where like the 1941 where it looks like he's going to play rugby out in the snow. Um, they usually are skin tight. The one thing I was gonna actually ask you, and this could be like the last thing because I think if you could spend like hours talking about this, so we'll
of
leave it
course, right.
in a few minutes, and then we come back to this conversation, especially like once we get concept art, then we can like start actually judging the
Yeah,
suit. But we've talked about the trunks. We've talked. I mean, in the past, we also, you can go back and check out other DC Daily episodes. I believe a couple of months ago, we talked about having a logo on the cape or not, and that was a good
yeah,
conversation. But what we haven't really discussed, and this is something James Gunn also mentioned on social, on whether I think it was Threads or Twitter, where he mentioned like everybody keeps asking me about underoos or no underoos. Nobody asked me about the bullet belt, a bullet belt or no bullet belt. And that got me thinking, like, well, A, are we gonna go with a belt regardless of whether we have underoos or not? Because that seems to be the one thing that's consistent through even the Man of Steel suit, where there's some sort of, I mean, it's not really a belt, but there's some design elements that kind of outline the waist. It's something to kind of
yeah,
differentiate the waistline from, so there's a bit of a break between the upper half of the body and the lower half. And then a lot of the other suits have the belt, whether it's part of the underwear or not. And then the other thing I was going to ask you is this version of Superman is going to have um, the authority around. Do you think this Superman might be connected to the authority in a more of an official capacity than we realize? And maybe that affects the kind of suit that he has. Can we possibly
yeah,
see him
maybe.
have a suit that's closer to like Guy Gardner's suit, where it feels like he's wearing some sort of a military, yes, like, it's not really a Kryptonian suit to begin with, but it's also not
Right.
like a homemade suit that he did like his mom made. It's more like it's like a job-esque, and then he's sort of kinda like in professional wrestling, right? Like what was the group that The Rock was a part of? The Nation
I
of
don't watch
Domination?
wrestling.
So I
I
was
don't
gonna
watch
say
wrestling.
he was part of this super group Nation of Domination, and then eventually he came out like, the star of the group, and he then broke away and went on a singles run. But I'm just saying, like, maybe Superman starts out as part of this group of superheroes, like the Authority, until he realizes that, maybe the ends
Yeah,
don't just justify the means.
it
Like,
is yeah.
yeah.
It is
What do you
funny you
think?
say that because, recently, the thing that brought the Authority back into canon was Superman and the Authority by Grant Morrison,
Mhm.
and Mikhail Janine, I think that's how you pronounce his name, and Superman had a very interesting suit there, which looks like from the images I'm looking at right now, is that it was short sleeve. He had gloves, which like kind of went up his forearm a little bit, but it was like a bodysuit. So, and it had the Kingdom Come logo on it. Um, so maybe they'll like, if there is a deeper connection to the Authority, maybe they'll have that, like kind of have that, and then like he'll eventually like, strip away and go, do his own thing, or if he's initially his own thing and then part of the Authority. Because now that there is like an official canonical comic book that has Superman as part of the Authority because of various, he sees like a villain incoming and that he needs people that aren't gonna have like questionable moral, like he needs like people that don't have like a moral spectrum type of thing, where they're like, if you need to get the job done, you need to get it done type of thing. So that is certainly a connection there. They could do something like that where it is more like the starting out the year 2 suit is like that Superman in the Authority suit where it's short sleeve, gloves, um, but it's like a tight bodysuit, has the Kingdom Come logo, which I wouldn't mind seeing. And do something like that could be, and then like he eventually grows and like maybe he shows off like the guns to like show off like, oh hey, even your bullets can't. I'm not wearing a bulletproof suit. I am bulletproof, and like he wears like short sleeve to like show that off or something. But then eventually along the lines, like I don't know, maybe he gets cold and he's like, he's in the Arctic a lot. That's where the Fortress of Solitude is. So maybe maybe he wants those longer sleeves. Kind of like what
Yeah, I
Stephen
mean,
Amell wanted in Arrow. He's like, I'm too cold. Let's bring
yeah.
back the long sleeves.
Well, I mean, Stephen Amell is about to do he's gonna lead the Suits spinoff. I don't know what network. Maybe it's on USA Network. Maybe it's on Netflix or whatever. But so he's busy doing the other stuff now. But I just wanted to. I don't know. That was an interesting nugget I came across today. But that image is on screen that you shared with that you were talking about and shared with us. The design, it really could fit into that narrative of the Authority and how they
Yeah,
and Grant Morrison is a part of the brain trust at DCU. So that I mean the pieces add up honestly, and I wouldn't mind seeing that. And I think that's a good suit to start off with because again the practicality is all there. You don't have a cape. He's got the gloves, and again it feels more form over like function over like form over function. Like it's designed to do a job. It's not designed for it just as to be aesthetically pleasing. It's and whereas I think in Man of Steel they always treated like a big part of the reason that why the suit looked the way it did was because it was like like a family, like the whole thing was a family crest, not just the S. It was like and it was also like a symbol of how people in Krypton dressed, like this very I don't know how like purpose-built society, I suppose. Like it's, like everybody has a role, they're predefined roles, and you're part of your guild or you're part of your family. It's very much like the medieval times, except it brought up to the next level and with some restrictions, not anything like the way we imagine a society. So this could be something where you don't really consider that. You're just saying you're part of a bigger collective, and therefore maybe the rest of the authorities' suits are similar. And then, like you said, he breaks off and kind of does his own
right.
thing. Maybe he hasn't discovered like his Fortress of Solitude. So, which did you say that already? I might be
Yeah.
repeating with
No,
yeah.
no, no,
So,
yeah. Well, I mentioned it
um,
like, oh, he wears the short sleeves because, at first he's like, oh, I want to show off the guns. I want to show off people
yeah.
can't, shoot me. And then he's like, and then he gets Fortress Solitude. And he's like, I'm a little cold. I'm get the
Yeah.
long sleeves.
Well,
But then he
also,
goes
like
for
he
no
might that
sleeve.
might be where he finds the suit. Like in Man of Steel, they were like that's where the ship was.
Right, right, right.
Hidden,
Yeah.
like they didn't really have a Fortress of Solitude in Man in that mythology. It was
Yeah.
just more
Kind of did, but kind of didn't. And yeah.
yeah. Which I don't mind that. I mean, honestly, but
Yeah,
that's
I didn't.
another
Yeah, that's a whole nother thing. But yeah, I wouldn't
conversation.
mind something like this, but I prefer
Yeah,
like more classic look, but like changing up the status quo type of thing.
yeah.
Where it's like, oh, something you've never seen before, but still falls in line with what like, like the traditional kind of suit, but it's like majorly changed up just to like, have its own
Right.
identity and that kind of
That's
thing.
fair. Yeah. Look, ultimately, the design of the suit comes down to whatever James Gunn has in mind and the story that he's got in mind. Of course, the actor David Cornsweet, what fits best for him. There's other actors like Isabelle Marquette, who's recently been trying doing try-ons with her suit of costume fittings, and she was
Mhm.
talking about it on the Meta web premiere. Nathan Fillion, we were talking about him yesterday, where he is about to do some costume fittings for the Guy Gardner suit. So we are really, at the precipice of really starting to see, hopefully, a lot of behind the scenes images coming out, whether they're official or leaked or fake leaked, because sometimes the studios pass this off as exclusives to like other outlets to run with, to control the narrative, which is fair. But yeah, I'm sure in the next week or two we're going to be looking at some real actual designs, because I don't know how much longer they can hold on to this stuff, because once you start getting actors and crew on set, there's only so much information that you can control from getting out. Even with NDAs nowadays, stuff gets out pretty quickly. So yeah, I mean, I personally am a sucker for the Man of Steel suit, but that's just because that's my version of Superman. So I will always sort of champion that. But then, this is a new iteration, and you go into it with an open mind, whether you want
Right.
something more classic, you want something more modern, or you want something in between, or completely different. There's all kinds of ways you can go about it. James Gunn reveres and loves the Christopher Reeve version of Superman and that design. We'll see how he adapts that for the here and the now, because you're not going to see exactly that suit. Obviously, you're probably going to see something that is at the very least updated, and more purpose built to the story that he's trying to tell. So let us know in the comments, guys. What do you think about that? Are you looking forward to the reveal? It's become like one of those rites of passage for most superhero franchises when they reboot, but especially Superman and Batman. Like, what suit are they gonna have? What is it gonna look like? And so they did this with the Batman, where they had a whole reveal around the suit alone, and that was a big deal. They did that for Ben Affleck's Batman, and it's been so long since you've had a new Superman movie suit. So the first one in more than 10 years. It's going to be exciting to see what it actually looks like. Let us know in the comments what you think about it, what kind of designs you would want to see, and of course, if you like this conversation, then hit the like button. That helps us out. If you didn't like it, you can hit the dislike button. Like if you think we are way off the mark, then let us know. And of course, subscribe, because we'll be here talking about all kinds of other DC related stories in the coming days, weeks, and months, whether it's Future Commandos, the Superman Legacy, Peacemaker Season 2, Waller, any other project, anything that James Gunn puts out there in the world. We'll be, getting into the nitty gritty, breaking it down, and over speculating the heck out of it. But until then, go out there and watch something DC related, and come back and talk to us about it. We'd love to hear your thoughts, and looking forward to doing this for days, weeks, hopefully years, months, to come. Until next time, guys, have a great rest of your day, and we'll see you back here on DC Daily.